Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhari Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhari Gopi Jana Ballava Giribaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Vishnavad Paramahams Aparivrajik Charis Tadasasi Srimad His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Shishi Radha Radhanath Ki. Sri Giri Govardhan Ki. Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the Decimal devotees. All glories to the Decimal devotees. All glories to the Decimal devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Fiji water. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4, Sati quits her body. Text 8. Sodarya samprashna samarta vartaya, matracha matri swasribis chasadaram, datam saparyam varam asanam chasa, nadata pura pratinandita sati. Translation. Although she was received by her sisters and mother, she did not reply to their words of reception. And although she was offered a seat and presents, she did not accept anything, for her father neither talked with her nor welcomed her by asking about her welfare. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sati did not accept the greetings offered by her sisters and mother, for she was not at all satisfied by her father's silence. Sati was the youngest child of Daksha, and she knew that she was his pet. But now, because of her association with Lord Shiva, Daksha forgot all his affection for his daughter, and this very much aggrieved her. The material bodily conception is so polluted that even upon slight provocation, all our relationships of love and affection are nullified. Bodily relationships are so transient that even though one is affectionate towards someone in a bodily relationship, a slight provocation terminates this intimacy. Saudarya samprashna samarta vartaya, matracha matri swashribishcha sadaram, datam saparyam varamasanam chasa, nadata pitra pratinandita sati. Although she was received by her sisters and mother, she did not reply to their words of reception. And although she was offered a seat and presents, she did not accept anything, for her father neither talked with her nor welcomed her by asking about her welfare. Okay. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutle Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitya Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastichadesh Tarne Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa-sindubhyevacha cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, well, yesterday there was a, you could say, somewhat related theme in the sense of how people's relationships sometimes affect other relationships. Yesterday the point particularly was that all the Brahmins and demigods who were subservient to Daksha, they would not greet or treat nicely Sati because of their relationships with Daksha. That Daksha was their superior, like senior and a more prominent and important person, in a certain sense at least. And they knew that he was not favorably disposed towards Sati, and because of her relationship with Lord Shiva, and they didn't want to endanger their relationship with Daksha by doing what they would have otherwise done, which would have been to greet Sati and just generally be nice and accept her and normal. So that's, we talked about how that's an interesting phenomenon. It happens. Like in politics and business, sometimes these things happen. So, but here it's a slightly different perspective. Well, it's a different perspective, but it's still, it's very much part of that same sort of, you could say, syndrome or type of mentality that, as we read yesterday, her mother, Sati's mother and sisters, they did greet her very nicely, as would have been expected, basically, with sweet words, embraces, gifts, offering a place to sit. And, these are just normal social, well, they're social etiquettes, but they're just normally the feelings of people when they meet their family members. And particularly, perhaps, well, you could say, particularly ladies, as was mentioned yesterday. Ladies tend to be more soft-hearted. Men are sometimes, Prabhupada said, very hard-hearted. So for ladies, to greet like that is just very normal. How many times have we seen that sort of situation? Greetings amongst ladies. Yes. But Sati was affected not by how they, if they had been, her mother and sisters had related with her in not nice ways, well, it would have been worse. Here, it's just, well, it would appear to be sort of the combination of how the Brahmins and demigods didn't interact with her, and how Daksha didn't. So the effect it had on Sati affected her relationships with the people who were nice to her. Interesting situation, as we read. Mother and sisters were very nice. It appears just like normal. But Sati, would not respond or reciprocate with them. Not because of anything that was wrong with them or how they were dealing with her at all. They were just right. It was just really very nice. But because of these other relationships. So, therefore, she wouldn't, Prabhupada says, she did not accept the greetings. Oh, the verse says she didn't reply. Yeah. They were very nice. They embraced her and said sweet words and all these things. She didn't respond. But it wasn't their fault. But she was so much affected by the demigods and the Brahmins. She understood that they're not being nice because of the way her father feels. And her father was just not nice anyway, so she understood clearly how he felt. So that upset her relationships with her sisters and mother. She wouldn't respond to their greetings and their sweet words. She wouldn't accept their presence, and she would not accept a sitting place when she was offered. So it's a very interesting point. And it's basically it's an aspect of what Prabhupada's focusing on in the purport. That material relationships are sort of, you could say, tenuous or fraught with, the potential for difficulty, prone to difficulties and breakups and separations and hard feelings. How many times has it happened? How many times have each of us experienced it? I haven't experienced it so much, but I've experienced it a bit. Yeah, that because of someone who's close to us, because of their relationship with someone else, which has nothing, sort of got, in a sense, nothing directly to do with us, but it affects our relationship with the first person, who otherwise would be and had been in the past very close. It's interesting, isn't it? So the way Prabhupada expresses it is very nice. The material bodily conception is so polluted that even upon slight provocation, all our relationships of love and affection are nullified. Yes, so that's a very important point, that there is pollution in these relationships. They're not pure relationships. The love and affection is not as pure as people think it is, or expect it to be, or want it to be like that. This is because in the bodily concept of life, everybody basically has the idea, what is good for me? I will pursue what is good for me, and what is not good for me, at least according to my calculation, I will just not bother with. I'll just not bother with. Yeah. I won't have anything to do with it. And maybe not even that, but maybe I'll just actually become antagonistic. So this is the thing. And this is one of the great differences between Krishna consciousness and material existence. Even in material existence, there's so much talk about love and you could say appreciation of love and importance placed on love. But the love on the material platform is, as we just said, it's very self-centered. Actually, one way of expressing it is that I love myself. And if you help me, then because you're helping the person I love, therefore I accept you, and I may even say I love you or whatever, but at least I'll have a relationship with you. It's really true. People love themselves first and foremost, and their acceptance of or rejection of others is to a large degree, if not practically completely, dependent on how much the other person facilitates their happiness. And as soon as the other person doesn't do that, then the person just is not part of their life. This is the pollution of the material bodily conception of life. And the relationships which are based on that bodily concept of love, meaning I love me, and how much you give me pleasure is how much I appreciate you or love you or accept you like that. It's so common that, like in the political sphere, like in the world wars, in one world war, one country was with, what they call the Allies, basically, or mainly the British and the Americans. In the next world war, they were against them. I think Italy, it was like that. So, what's the relationship? There's no real deeper relationship at all. And as Prabhupada says, even slight provocation, then the love is lost. Just one mistake in the relationship, even not a mistake, but which is thought to be a mistake in the relationship, and the relationship becomes damaged. So this is very different from love. Real love is there in Krishna consciousness, and in the sense of love for Krishna and Krishna's love for us, and then on the basis of that can develop love for others. And that's why we see amongst the devotees there are oftentimes, in so many cases, but at least oftentimes, so many very affectionate relationships amongst devotees, all centered on the relationship with Krishna. So this is the reality. And even sometimes when between the two people, devotees, some problem arises, but usually it's easier to get over because of the shared love for Krishna and the love for the process of Krishna consciousness and other devotees. But, yeah. Anyway, so things operate like this in so many cases. I remember when I first went to Latvia, to Riga is the capital of Latvia, and we have a big temple, pretty big temple there. And there I was, and I didn't speak a word of Russian. Maybe da and niet, maybe, but maybe not also, but definitely not more than that, if that. And I was there. Well, in Riga, our movement was, and probably still is, but it definitely was, a Russian movement. The only language used was Russian, particularly in the temple. Only language used was Russian. And I didn't understand a word. And there were only 2 or 3 or 4, anyway, a small number of devotees who could speak English. But I got on with the non-English speakers very nicely. The relationships were nice. Although we couldn't understand each other much, at least only with great difficulty. But the mood was really very nice. So this is how it works. And sometimes parents reject children. Sometimes husband and wife reject each other. And sometimes children reject parents. When I was young, in my later teenage particularly, just teenage, you could say, years, then there was the hippie movement. And amongst the hippies, parents were not appreciated. They were really not appreciated. And I'll be quite honest, I didn't appreciate my parents. Not that they really did anything against me, but just because they were older, they were uncool according to the culture. That was all. They were uncool according to the culture. And as Bob Dylan sang, which, I really accepted, there's a song of his very famous, "The times they are a-changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly changing, so get out of the new one if you can't lend a hand, because the times there are changing." That's amazing, isn't it? I can still remember it. And that was from the 60s. That was from, 64, 65, 64. Yeah, more than 50 years ago. It made an impression on me. But the idea, what he was expressing the feelings of so many young people. It was amazing, actually. Rejecting their parents. Although in so many cases, the parents didn't do anything worthy of being rejected for. So, yes, but it's all on the basis of the fundamental principle of the material bodily conception of life, which is that I am the center of my life. And my pleasure, satisfaction, and progress, and all these things are the main things that matter to me. And anyone who facilitates that and accepts and gives me pleasure directly or indirectly in some way or other, I accept. And anyone who doesn't do that even if they don't do anything against me, but they just don't positively help me, I reject. I'm not interested in, or you could say I reject. So this is being demonstrated so vividly here. As we've said, this particular pastime is just full of lessons, full of important points in Krishna consciousness. It's really so true. And I'm sure we've seen it. I've seen it so many times. It happened in my own life to some degree, not so much, but one of my friends who was a close friend in New Zealand happened to be in London when I joined the temple. And he came to see me like the first day or the second day. And I could tell, he was just, how would you say, sarcastic and condescending towards me. Oh yeah, definitely. So therefore we have to be in Krishna consciousness. And we have to progress in Krishna consciousness. And then we will, we'll be happier and we'll be able to have better relationships, particularly with devotees. Yeah. And those relationships will last. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A shorter class. Such is life.